Hello and welcome to another episode of Historic Hindsight. I'm John, that's Tom, and today we're going to talk to you about the horseless carriage.
That's right, Johnny. The horseless carriage, or specifically when the horseless carriages decided to crash into each other, or crash in general, and including the first casualty by these horseless carriages. I got a couple of stories for us here today.
So they started out dangerous.
They started out
sounds like
not the safest devices in the world. And if you're just watching this as we show live, it got cold fast.
Yeah.
So you notice that I'm buttoned up. My breath is a shining because we do this out in our garages and they are not heated.
I'm comfy though because I got an insulated garage door this year. So I'm sitting pretty.
I am.
So we're talking about the first car crashes. Some of the first car crashes. So this is early 1900s, late 1800s?
Late 1800s, actually. Everything happens in the 1800s. This is right off the bat, we already start having issues.
Now, when did we had the first cars, but when was the assembly line?
Yes, so the first commercial car sales that are actually commercially produced, that you could actually go out and buy a commercially produced car in the United States. I'm not sure about elsewhere, but in the United States was 1896 is when the first commercially cars become available for sale. So that's actually a little bit earlier than I thought. I was thinking it was closer to maybe 1900s because we always think about the Model T, which is the early 1900s.
And that was just
that's your mass produced, your mass produced cars, because they were around for years and years beforehand.
A decade since before that occurred. So you would go and you could buy it though from a dealer presumably somewhere, or order it from a magazine, probably a Sears
catalog. Yeah, I think you got it right there, Johnny. A Sears catalog, and this was for the rich of the rich. This was not a poor man's toy. No, you or I would not have been able to afford one at the time. So the idea of this episode came from the ticketing talkers and the Facebookers that I keep seeing this, the first car crash in Ohio where two cars that were the only two registered cars crashed into each other, somehow managed to find each other and crash into each other. So I did a little bit of research into that story, and so allegedly it happened in Ohio City, Ohio in 1895, and allegedly at that time there were two registered cars in the entire state. And the idea of this is hilarious, that you could find two cars in the entire state could manage to run into each other. And that's where the story starts to fall apart when you try to actually look and see about things. So first, Ohio didn't actually start registering automobiles until 1901.
So
or 1908, sorry,
1908.
Exactly, yeah, so in 1890,
registered cars.
In 1895 there was zero registered cars. The other big problem is that commercial cars weren't around in 1895. It was another year yet before commercial cars were available in the United States.
And but did anybody have access to cars in 1895? Were there test cars?
Yes, yes. So
they had there were people building the production before they started mass producing it.
In 1895, what you get a lot of homemade in the shop kind of inventors, like, I've got this idea for a single cylinder engine that operates on petroleum distillate, and I'm going to go and put that into a carriage and see what happens.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing. At this time, cars were not, they didn't start out with the cars that look like what we have today. Even the Model T cars, they were literally carriages that they powered the wheels of.
Yes, exactly.
And then they had a stick up in the middle to steer or guide it or whatever. But even the steering wheel was a later adaptation.
Oh, yeah, much later.
The car.
Even the Model T, the first commercially produced car, if you get into a Model T, anybody right now gets into a Model T, even somebody who knows how to drive a manual transmission car, which that is hard enough to find today, gets into a Model T, they will not know how to drive that. First off, the pedals the pedals on the floor, none of those are the gas. There's 3 pedals, none of them are the gas. It's on a lever on the steering wheel. It's like
on
the
steering,
what looks like
so
the
where you would
indicator.
Put it in drive or whatever.
That's actually your gas. Yeah. So in the pictures that go around, you usually have 2 pictures of the company of the story. One is clearly of 1940s cars, so that right out the window goes like garbage on that picture. And the other picture is 2 era appropriate cars, but it doesn't show them crashing. It shows one clearly moving and the other one kind of stopped at the intersection.
Stopped at the intersection. Yeah, so looking both ways.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say maybe not always the most reliable information on TikToks and Facebookers, but...
Hold on.
What?
Now, hold your horses there, Tom, because that's where I get all of my information.
Well, it's not always the best. But in any case, this is get me into like thinking about like what was the actual first car crash, or at least the first car crash in the United States, and how did that happen? Well,
and the first recorded one.
The first recorded one.
Two super rich people didn't just get too embarrassed and not even bother reporting it. They just
and it could have, you know what? It could have been that. It could have been a situation where two cars crashed. But again, in 1895, cars were such a rarity on the road that if two of them didn't in fact hit each other, there would have been a newspaper article.
Yeah, people would have been talking about the two jackasses that crashed their cars into each other. Because even then, I think they would have seen the humor in the situation.
Yeah, it's like there's how likely would this have been? But so in doing my research, I did find out that the first car crash in the United States did in fact occur in Ohio City, Ohio, but it was actually not until 1891.
Okay.
And this is what may have been the actual first recorded accident of a gasoline horseless carriage, because there were electric horseless carriages and there were steam horseless carriages beforehand.
Horse-powered horses.
Yeah, horse-powered carriages as well. There's plenty of those that crashed. Yes. So you may be thinking, why Ohio? Like, what is the odd? Like Ohio? Why the odds of that happening? Where the first two reported crashes?
I would have expected Detroit, Motor City.
Exactly. Well, you see, Detroit Motor City hadn't yet started producing automobiles. They hadn't gotten known for that. In fact, it was Cleveland, Ohio, that was the first reported commercial production of cars inside the United States. So Cleveland was actually the original Motor City, and which might explain why Cleveland, Ohio has those two guardian statues on the bridge outside the city that the roller derby team is named after, that now Cleveland Indians have to pay a shit ton of money to get the name so that they can change their name to the Cleveland Guardians, because they don't want to be a racist team anymore with the Cleveland Indians, which means, does that mean they're going to redo Major League? Are they going to redo that movie with and make it the Cleveland Guardians now instead of the Cleveland Indians?
I'll bet they don't bother going back and retouching Major League to suit today's stage. I mean, watch any movie from the 90s or before. It's problematic. At least like 70% problematic.
At least a little problematic
by today's standards. Yeah. They don't hold up anymore.
I watched it and I thought it was hilarious, but
they're still funny. They just don't hold up to today's standards.
What is appropriate? Yeah, I gotcha.
Appropriate comedy. Yeah,
I gotcha. But in any case, Cleveland's now the city where cars are getting made. Ohio City. The first crash happens when a James William Lambert is puttering around Ohio City in his one-cylinder automobile. Now, from the research that I could find, I think he either invented this automobile himself or he invented some major component of the automobile, and he was out puttering around and testing it.
Okay, so just test driving his little soapbox car.
Yeah,
essentially.
One cylinder, 2-stroke engine. I mean, this is high horsepower. It's got two of them.
Yeah, three and a half horsepower maybe.
Something like that.
That's got to be lawnmower engines have to be.
Oh yeah, I guarantee you I guarantee my Craftsman lawnmower in front of me goes faster than that. That little first car was able to go. So the first car crash happens when James Lambert is puttering around his friend James Swovelin, and they're riding around the town, and the two of them are going to wind up hitting a tree root which is in the road. Which, let that sink in for a second, that these high sophisticated roads have tree roots that are just growing out of them.
No, these roads existed before. They didn't make new roads. This was a road that carriages would be driving over regularly.
Yes, yeah.
Would they swerve to avoid it?
I don't know. He hits a tree root.
Just repair the wheel when it breaks.
Yeah, right. He hits a tree root. He loses control and then hits a hitching post. And for you those who don't know what that is, that's where you put your horse to, so that the horse doesn't wander away when you go into the bar and get drunk.
So it wasn't necessarily that the tree root was a problem in and of itself. It's that horses could continue to pull the carriage behind it, but he hit it
and then lost control and then
got the speed wobbles because he was probably flying
at 3 miles an hour,
3 to 5 miles an hour.
Lost control and again, there's
hit a hitching post.
Your brake on that is literally a lever, and you're turning with this other lever up here, and your brake is also your throttle in a lot of these early cars, where it's like your throttle is basically the engine is running at full blast at all times, and you're releasing brake tension on the wheel to go faster or slower, if that makes sense. That's kind of how.
Man, that would be disastrous with today's technology.
Oh, God.
Could you imagine just riding a brake to keep your car from idling at 70 miles an hour or whatever?
New brakes every 5 minutes. In any case, so he careens out of control, hits a hitching post. Nobody's dead or died or damaged or seriously hurt.
That's a bit like crashing into a parking space.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Not a bad crash.
Like I said, injuries are minor, and Lambert would actually go on to invent 600 more inventions, mostly revolving around the automobile industry. So he's kind of an early player in these early horseless carriages.
So are there any significant inventions that he did come up with that we use or that were kind of carried over, or is it just a lot of little tiny like patents on engine,
little
obscure engine parts that we wouldn't understand?
Little patents that I don't think he like invented, like the hydraulic brake system or anything like that. I don't think it's anything we use today. I think it's all
probably a lot of engine related things. I'd imagine early on.
Yeah, I'd imagine early engine stuff. Yep. In any case, the first recorded death due to an automobile, and I'm going to put that in quotes, automobile, because this is not a gas-engined automobile, but it is a horseless carriage. It's going to occur in the United States, and we have way more information on this because there were news stories galore on this one.
I mean, yeah. Imagine when Tesla released their self-driving cars. If the first thing it did was go and run somebody over,
people are gonna talk.
That's probably the amount of press that you're getting with this. Now, it's not gas powered, so electric.
Ding, electric. So
now, were those the wind, or was that also a gas?
No, that's a gas. That's how you
to get
started.
the gas turning. That's
how you started the engine. There wasn't an electric start. You actually had a crank to start.
What was it? So the first cars were electric cars.
Yes,
a lot.
Some of them. Yeah. And how did that technology not continue? And why are we?
How did they do it then? What were they doing?
Well, they had batteries. Batteries existed all the way back to. You got to remember, like
efficient enough to run a.
Apparently,
chimney.
Yeah. They existed. They were things. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, you got the trolleys over in New York and in California, over in L.A. Those were all electric to start with.
Yeah, but they
I mean, they're running on power lines. Yeah. I got you.
They weren't doing that.
No. They were battery powered cars. Yeah.
That's wild.
So, like I said, the first recorded death occurs on September 13th, 1899. So even before 1900s. Not a few. Not that. I mean, we went a good ways without an automobile-related death.
It's what 13 years of
not
consumer.
Bad. But then again, when the average car is going like 8 miles an hour,
it's hard to get a death at that speed.
To get a death at that speed. Yeah.
Injuries, you're going to get hurt, but death is hard under 10 miles an hour.
So it's going to occur in New York City, New York. A Mr.
Of course.
Of course. A Mr. Henry Hale Bliss is going to be the unfortunate victim here. He is a real estate worker, and at 69 years young, Johnny, he's on his way home from work. Because, Social Security doesn't exist yet, so somebody who's like fucking archaic is still working because, it's 1899.
Welcome to our future. Social Security is not going to matter at that point.
You're right.
I mean, history repeating itself.
Yeah, you're right, Johnny. But in any case, he is going to be riding on the southbound trolley, one of those electric trolleys I was talking about, from 8th Street when he gets off to depart the trolley on the corner of the West 74th Street and Central Park West. As he's disembarking off the trolley, an electric-powered taxicab, number 48 specifically, runs his ass over. And again, let that sink in. Taxicab winds up killing somebody in New York City. That's an electric taxi. Who would have thought that was going to happen?
I mean, that's got to be... People have to be demanding that taxis...
go away, right?
Yeah, you got to ban it. You cancel it. You got to get rid of the taxis because they are killing people. They're hunting them down. Running them over at... How fast were cars going in 1899?
10 miles, 15 miles. It can't be that fast. You can Google it while I sit here and talk for a second, Johnny. But 1899, electric taxi cab, like I said, runs them over, and because electric vehicles are way too damn quiet, so maybe that's why they got regulated and safety hazards, and we didn't have them. Maybe that's why we went on to the combustion engine. But in any case, unfortunate Mr. Bliss would hit his head and chest, getting them ran over. He's going to be rushed. He's going to be rushed to Roosevelt Hospital, and that's Teddy Roosevelt Hospital. Not FDR Roosevelt, because FDR is not alive yet because it's 1899.
Right. Okay, so real quick about the speed. So I'm going to assume that they're in a Stanley runabout because I just Googled 1899 car speeds, and that's the car that's in the 1899 time period. 35 miles per hour. So sorry, that'll kill some people.
That'll do it.
That's like what they do crash tests at is around like 30 to 35 miles per hour, right? Because that's
shocking.
I would not have
thought it would have gotten up that fast.
That's horrifying.
It is horrifying
because these are literally carriages without horses with motors put on going 35 miles an hour.
So unfortunately, Mr. Bliss will succumb to his wounds the next day at the hospital. The surgeon was there, said, "Hey, look, his head and his chest are crushed. We can't."
He just got straight run
yeah,
over,
he got
right?
ran. Yeah, he got ran over.
He probably went under the wheels, and that's that. That's when that happens.
That's that. Because these are metal wheels too, by the way, not rubber. The taxi driver is named Arthur Smith. He said that he had to drive closer to the trolley due to a truck blocking the right side of the avenue. So from the report that I read, it kind of sounds like he had to go kind of onto the wrong side of the road to avoid this parked truck.
And that sounds ridiculous, but that is currently traffic laws in New York City.
Yeah, pretty much.
Holy cow. I've been in New York City one time, and it was overnight trip. It was in and out, and I had a driver pick me up from the airport and take me to a hotel or whatever, and I have never in my life been more anxious than riding in the back of that car, just watching what he was doing.
New York taxi, yeah.
I mean, just up on sidewalks, over half on, half off. Delivery trucks are just stopped all over the place. They just kind of go. They don't have laws. They just do what they need to do.
Pretty much in New York, yeah.
It's just try to get there. We'll see. I don't know.
Smith is going to be arrested and charged with manslaughter, but he's going to be acquitted due to lack of malice and not found to be negligent of anything, because again, it's like we were saying,
they basically came to the conclusion it's just an accident.
Yeah, just an accident. Yeah, just a freak.
I mean, obviously you weren't trying to do anything. You weren't behaving inappropriately, because we don't know what inappropriate
means in cars. Yeah, there are new things on the road. The taxi passenger in the taxi was actually the son of the former mayor, Franklin Edson. So that's kind of just the again, going back to the whole cars are for rich people. So I imagine that an electric taxi cab that's a horseless carriage has probably got rates that are a bit higher than people just taking the trolley. So
I mean that's it's a luxury at that point. It's the rich people living the rich people life and running the serfs over. Who still have to work at 69 bastards. 69.
69, yeah.
I forget that.
Hey-o. Hi-o. But the first and earliest recorded death that I could find due to horseless carriage actually occurs way, way, way back in 1869 in Ireland, of all places. And yes, you heard me right, 1869, just a few short years after the Civil War.
So this was a carriage that the horses had just come undone from, and then it became a horseless carriage rolling down a hill.
Steam engine, Johnny. Steam engine on a horseless carriage. Could you imagine if steam engines became the way that we drove automobiles? A boiler containing the pressure that a boiler does, getting nicked in the slightest way, will explode. Any car crash involving a steam engine is going to...
Of which there would be a ton, because... your mode of transport makes it so people can't see behind you.
Right?
Can you imagine trying to figure out when to stop when there's just plumes of steam coming from behind the car in front of you? The power lights that we would need to have to be able to see through it, like the brake lights we would need.
Glorious.
People complain about blinding LED lights.
I did say steam engine and not just like wood burning, because like in World War II and before, like in Europe, when you couldn't get gas, you were able to run your gasoline petroleum engines with some modifications off of a wood burning stove. That basically your gas is the fumes that come off of a wood burning fire or a trash burning fire. That's not what this is. This is an actual legit steam engine with a boiler, pushing your fucking car.
Yeah. Now here's my dumb question of the day. What were engines used for before cars? What were engines first purposed for? Built for?
I don't.
And steam engines and stuff like that, obviously. But like other than vehicular transport.
So a lot of them were used for the production or the processing of gold. Like a lot of your mines had engines that were pressing, that were smashing the rock to get the
running
gold,
heavy machinery.
Just
like basic
there's that
lever systems.
Yep, you had
humans couldn't do.
You had engines that were used to run mills. So instead of grinding the corn up by a water mill, you'd have an actual mechanical engine,
or a donkey walking around,
or a donkey walking around. Yeah, you'd have an engine that would do that.
So
old industrial sewing machines were run off of these engines, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Think of like industrial manufacturing is where most of those old engines were.
Any sort of type of machinery that humans can't operate by themselves was aided by some engine of some sort.
Big old steam engines, pretty much, at the earliest of times. Yep. So in Ireland, like I said, the steam cars were kind of a thing. There is a Mary Ward, who is a female scientist in the Victorian age, so let that kind of sink in for a second.
Wow.
Surprised she wasn't hung as a witch.
Congratulations, Ireland. Way to be ahead of time.
Most scientists were hung as witches, and this is
no, but here's
woman.
The thing. Even back then, if women were good enough at what they did and they were able to keep secret while they were getting good enough, once they got there, they were basically like, oh no, that's a man.
Yeah, it's a man.
It won't treat it. It was the same thing with slaves during in early America, where if they got rich enough, they became basically a white person.
New Orleans, we had the free people of color that actually owned slaves themselves. As soon as they
made enough money.
As that came out of my mouth, I want it to be clear they were not equal to the white man. So all you dirty Southerners out there, like, oh, well, black people own slaves
tell
too.
me that's not what this is about. That's not what it is.
I'm clarifying. I'm stopping it before
fine.
It gets. That's not what came out of my mouth. That's all I'm saying. Not what came out of my mouth.
No one's quoting you, Tommy.
I hope not. Like I said, Mary Ward, female scientist. Now, Mary is the mother of 8 children, basically raising them on her own and being a scientist. So she gets a little tired, decides that she's sick of her kids, sick of her sexist coworkers, and decides to go on vacation to her cousin's fucking castle just outside of Dublin. So this is a very rich woman going out to hang out with her very rich family.
So that's why she was able to study the sciences, because... Yeah. So she didn't have any brothers, and then her wealthy family was like, all right, we got to educate somebody. I don't know.
You get it. So while at the castle, somebody suggested they take her cousin's homemade steam engine automobile for a ride. We're going to take this homemade horseless carriage for a ride. There was drinking.
This is early rednecks with money.
Yeah, this is early rednecks with money.
Right? This is hey, come check out my 4-wheeler that I went ahead and put this Corvette engine into.
Yeah.
We're gonna see how fast it can go.
So they go on a nice night for a ride. They pile 4 people into a horseless carriage. Now, if you know a horseless carriage, you're not piling of 4 people. Like, it's usually like room for 2. All right. Usually have room for 2.
So this is going out in high school with 6 of your friends in the back of your Honda Civic.
Yes, exactly. That's a good equivalent. Keep that in mind. So they are driving around with these 4 people in their horseless carriage, and they're going to go to the town of Green in Burr. A witness reports that the driver was driving at an easy pace, so he wasn't hauling ass or anything. Easy pace,
probably 15 miles an hour or so.
Like nothing that would surprise a local villager. Like, oh, they're hauling ass.
Essentially, the speed limit, but we don't know what that is
because speed limits aren't a thing.
They were going the speed limit.
But the driver must have taken the turn in front of St. Brendan's Church a bit too fast, because Ward gets knocked out of the carriage and then subsequently ran over by the huge iron wheel. And then, it's a huge iron wheel, so she ain't gonna make it. So that's that's the first actual...
so... If you imagine them going around the turn and her flying out, we see that a lot in action movies and things like that. The person gets flung out and then the car keeps going. They don't get hit by the wheel. They must have been drifting around this curve where she gets thrown out, and then they drift a little bit more and then go and crush her to death with the iron wheel.
It's not like traction.
And so it wasn't even a crash. It was
she fell out and got ran over.
Seatbelts.
Yeah, lack of seatbelts fault on that one. Yeah, definitely lack of safety protocols on the horseless carriage they made in their backyard. So
yeah, it's shocking. It's really surprising. There.
So I guess if there's a lesson to learn from all of these is maybe this horseless carriage thing shouldn't take on, and we should all just keep driving carriages with horses. It'd be much safer for everybody. We wouldn't have any deaths on the road.
That's it for this week in Historic Hindsight. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review, and join us next week when we talk about the rise of the samurai.